Welcome to the Tech Ed Podcast, where we visit with leaders who are shaping, innovating, and disrupting technical education. People who are not afraid to think differently, not afraid to try something new, all with the goal of securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. Welcome back, all of you joining us on YouTube Live. I am Matt Kirkner, your host for the Tech Ed Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you with us as we broadcast live from Rockwell Automation Fair. We are in the heart of Chicago, Illinois, not far from Lake Michigan at McCormick Place, and the energy here at Automation Fair, absolutely incredible. 17,000, 18,000 people, believe it or not. They're here for engaging presentations. They're here for interactive training and learning. They are here for industry-centric discussions. And if you have any way of making your way over to Chicago here these next two days, if you love Industry 4.0, if you love advanced manufacturing, if you want to see the cutting edge of manufacturing technology, this is the place to be. If you can't be here, thank you for joining us, because we have an individual that can bring all of this technology alive. His name is Andrew Ellis, and Andrew is the Vice President of Global Portfolio Engineering at Rockwell Automation. This is going to be one of the most invigorating conversations we have all day as we hear about the future of industrial manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, and Industry 4.0 technology, talking with Andrew. So, Andrew, first of all, welcome to the Tech Ed Podcast.
Fantastic. It's like you said, it's like the energy here, you can feel it. Like there's so many people and it's exciting. And this is like, 2 hours, 3 hours in? It's like, I know. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. And it just continues to build, right? I mean, every hour that goes by, it seems like there's more people walking through. They're all just fascinated by the things that they're seeing here. So credit to you and to Rockwell Automation for your leadership in putting this event on every year. I've been coming for I don't even know how many years, but every single time here I see not just one thing new, but like all of these new technologies, all of these new partnerships that Rockwell's putting together. I do have a question really quickly before we dive into a little more detail, Andrew. Global portfolio engineering. So help our audience understand. I think people would understand maybe global engineering. You throw the portfolio in. Does that mean you're working with multiple Rockwell brands or companies, or how does that fit?
Yeah, look, we picked the name, and it's a new organization. It's only a year old, but the intent of the word portfolio is to say we cross all from kind of our hardware, our software, and even into our services to help kind of describe and put together information to help our sales teams and our customers understand how we can help, right? How do we position our complete portfolio, which includes not only our products, but our partners' products. So the Microsofts, the Ansys, the Ciscos, and Kamaus, how does that all fit into our ecosystem? So portfolio felt like, better than saying products and solutions. It was a complete kind of gamut of what Rockwell provides.
I have to say, you just hearing you explain that, you have like one of the coolest jobs I've ever heard of, to be able to be involved with.
I love it too.
Absolutely. All those technologies, all those different Rockwell brands, and on the engineering side. And I love the fact that Rockwell is and continues to be an engineering and technology driven company, but one that has really evolved in crazy ways. As you may or may not know, I actually ran a Rockwell Automation spinoff for about 10 years, from 1998 to 2008. Cool. One of the most interesting and fascinating periods of my career. Rockwell had spun off its metal finishing operation, which at the time was the largest contract metal finisher in the world, and I ran that company for Rockwell for 10 years. But at the time, Rockwell, I think a lot of folks saw them as an industrial controls company. You think PLCs, you think variable frequency drives, you think HMIs, and your product portfolio is so much bigger than that. And you've made such tremendous investments. We hear about organizations like Emulate 3D, like Plex Systems, and others. So talk a little bit, if you would, Andrew, about some of the new technologies that you're displaying here at Automation Fair, some of the new technologies you're putting to work in the world of advanced manufacturing. For
sure. Maybe I'm going to back up a little. As we were talking just now, because you're talking about acquisitions, and I came here through an acquisition. Right. I've been here for 14 years. And, I was joking with you, and I kind of said, I thought, you come to a big company like Rockwell from a 40, 50-person company. We had known the brands like Allen Bradley and so forth for many, many years. Right. I programmed PLCs and HMIs and kind of put in those systems. Yeah. But I'm still here. I thought I'd be here for 2 years because I'm a startup person. It's like, I love this place.
Right.
The technology we're bringing, where Blake's kind of driving us into the next century. So when you think about all of our acquisitions that we've done, if you look back even to things like Emulate 3D, which was only a couple of years ago, you walk through the show floor today, it is everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
It with our robots in our industry pavilion, all the way through back to the SOC, and everywhere you'll see Emulate 3D.
And this is your digital twin software,
That's
right?
our digital twin that allows us to connect to our controllers, so I can test out code, build my twin before I build, and then deploy, and then I can use it for commissioning, obviously.
Right.
And then once it's running, when you're operating, now use as the digital twin to say what's different from normal behavior.
Absolutely.
Right? That is, you'll see that everywhere, and that's one. I mean, the Calypso from our services capabilities have just changed the way we do business. They bring a real kind of business consulting feel to what we do and how we approach our customers.
Sure.
With value first, and let's it's not all about POCs and POVs. It's about let's find some value and dive down and then expand from there.
Yeah.
Your question though was kind of what's new here.
Well,
So
before we we center in on that, just a little bit more on the Emulate 3D, because I really love the way that you explain that technology. What I like to say is, and I spent several decades running manufacturing companies. The scariest day in the life of a manufacturing engineer is the day that you change the process on the shop floor, right?
For sure.
Because if you change it and you get it right and you improve throughput or you improve yield or whatever, you're
Hero.
a superstar, right? and if it doesn't work, all eyes are on you. That is the worst day of your life, is the day 100%. That you mess up the system, and now you've got lead time issues, you've got customers that need product and you're not able to produce it, and it was all because you had a miss on a technology change. What that digital twin software allows us to do, if I'm hearing you right, is really work all those mistakes out ahead of time, so that when we do turn that into a physical asset on the shop floor, so many of the things that we may have had to do in the physical universe, we can actually do in the cyber universe, and we can work out all those challenges, and then, to your point, connect that to the cloud and gather data from it and allow us to predict the future. Am I getting that right?
That's 100% right. And look, you'll never work out all kinks, but with Emulate 3D, you really start to, and it's not just, oh, have I wired this correctly? Does that function work correctly? You start to see it differently, because when you see something in 3 dimensions and how it really will behave, once it's connected to everything, all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, that's not going to work. Like I in my previous lives programmed a lot of PLCs,
right?
And it's never right the first time.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
like, oh, that's what that happens when this I remember one time the soil was wet, or basically the material is wet. When it gets wet, when it goes through a dryer, obviously it's heavier and denser, and the reactions aren't the same.
Sure.
And if you don't have that information, where you might have been able to simulate that kind of information,
right,
it's huge. So I agree. The use of Emulate 3D, I think it's also simple. People will go, oh, I see how you do that. I build my model of my piece of equipment. If you look at anywhere, we've got our independent cart, or in the robotics, I drag those modules onto a picture.
Right.
I wire it up to my controller, whether it's a simulated one or a real one,
mm-hmm.
and now I can program and test and see how this works.
Right.
And even to a point where if I've got fluid dynamics, I can integrate like ANSYS models,
sure,
for that heavy-duty kind of simulation. And now I'm testing before I even go to site. That is huge.
And just the way we can load those systems up, the physical system with smart sensors and smart devices, gathering way more data than we ever could before. What we call the exponential economy is hard at work in the world of industrial automation and manufacturing. Yeah. So the costs of deploying smart sensors coming down exponentially. We can measure everything on a process, send that back to the digital twin, and use that information to avoid downtime, to predict the future. I mean, it's just such a fascinating world that we're living in. I did cut you off on the answer about the other technologies that folks are going to see. If you're remote and you're joining us on YouTube Live and you're just looking in a lens into all the amazing things happening here at Rockwell Automation Fair, Andrew, tell us about some of the other technologies that folks are going to see while they're here.
I'm thinking, I could almost start at the beginning. As you walk into the booth, you got the Andy robots there, the Kamau robots. Yep. In the background, Emulate 3D showing, mm-hmm. how this, yep. works. Sure, it's an eye catcher, but it's like, it's incredible what these robots can do. It's incredible how you can now simulate that with Emulate 3D. So it starts right at the beginning. You come in through to our industry pavilion for those obviously that aren't here and
right.
Virtual.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see the solutions that we provide, because at the end of the day, customers are buying solutions to their problems.
Right.
For sure, there's the standard things we sell, the motors and drives and I/O and controllers for what people want. But a lot of our customers are coming to us because they have challenging problems and they want to see, have we done this before? Because
sure.
Nobody wants to be the first. They want to be, the second and third,
right,
like
exactly.
those early adopters.
Yep.
So you come through there, you'll see a lot of great technology. And as you work your way through, you'll get to look at our FactoryTalk hub. So, and I'm going to integrate Emulate 3D into there as well. So this is our kind of access with Microsoft, with Azure, where we've got a cloud-based SaaS solutions. So we are just launched our Designer Studio Designer in the cloud. And for those that can come back to the look at the software back there,
yeah.
You can see all of a sudden we've got all these capabilities in the cloud, from our Emulate 3D for design to optics to Plex for MES.
Mm-hmm.
All these are now in the system, in the cloud, easy, like people have on their iPhones, on their whatever kind of a phone they may have, smartphone. This is what people want, because I'm no longer installing software, dealing with the hassles of upgrades, all of the things that kind of the IT guys have to deal
right.
with. Now it's at my fingertips, and collaboration at that point then becomes so much easier. I love the cloud.
Yep.
Look, we also have to kind of play nice on premise.
Right.
I mean, our sweet spot is right by the machine, right on the edge. That's the heart of it, right? Because I was doing one of the tours today, and the question was, it seems like there's so much cloud. It's like, but you'll probably never be able to run all of your algorithms, all of that AI in the cloud. You can build your models there,
right?
But you need it close to the machine where you can make those split-second decisions,
right?
And that's what our systems can do, and that's what you're going to see here. Everywhere you see a machine or robot, there's AI embedded in it.
Absolutely, there is, and that's one of the things as we talk about smart technology, we talk about Industry 4.0, and really the driver for our listeners who may not be familiar is that we're now taking that intelligence and putting it right at the device level. We're putting it right on the edge. So some of these, these former, constraints to automating and to driving Industry 4.0 technology, driving data analytics, things like latency. It may be microseconds, but you still have to send this information all over the place. The amount of bandwidth that was required in the past to be able to send that information all over. To your point, we have smart robots that can, on their own, predict their own future failure, order their own replacement parts.
Right,
These kind of technologies, and it does kind of blow my mind a little bit as we're sitting here at Automation Fair, Andrew, and talking about things like collaborative robots, talking about smart devices, talking about edge computing, talking about digital twins. I mean, this is a world that, in a language that would have been 100% foreign to me even 15 years ago. And to
for
think
most
about,
people, it would be.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about it. The whole, we all knew what simulation was.
Right.
I know when I started my career, we would simulate a process
right.
plant, but that took months
right.
and months, and it was hard physics,
mm-hmm.
right? And then you would try and test your control system. Today, we're doing it all the time for various things, to improve product design, to improve the kind of deployment, commissioning. There's just so many things that it can do.
So many things, and so many things that you're seeing, not just here in the United States, but around the globe. And as much as your title is Global Portfolio Engineering, the vice president thereof, by the way, I'd be interested, Andrew. I've done most of my career manufacturing-wise here in the United States. I've had suppliers all over the world. I've had customers all over the world, but pretty U.S.-centric manufacturing. You get to travel the globe. You get to look at best practices on every single continent when it comes to advanced manufacturing. How would you say the U.S. measures up these days in the world of advanced manufacturing?
Oh, I think it's still fairly high, and there are definitely pockets all over the world that are equivalent. I think that the difference between regions are more their resources and therefore the things they make, whether it's mining, whether they're, think of Europe, it's very OEE based, a lot of machine manufacturers, machine builders in that location. North America, heavy resources, so we've got a lot of technology kind of lives and breathes here and
sure.
is deployed. I do think, there's probably a digital maturity index for countries as well,
sure.
if you can expand to that.
Of course.
Where I think the U.S. is leading in many areas. I think, EMEA is not too far behind, and there's probably pockets in Asia Pacific that are equivalent to all of that. You're always going to have the different levels, and the nice thing about Rockwell is we can cater to wherever they are, wherever, I'm talking about countries, but it's really customers.
Right.
Wherever they are in that maturity level, not everyone's going to get to 3.0 or 4.0.
Right.
A lot of people are still back in 2 and 3,
right,
trying to bring automation in. I love talking about artificial intelligence and AR, VR, but those are somewhat luxuries to plants and factories that
right.
have already brought in 3.0 and they're almost finished that, and now they have this data. What do I do with it?
Right.
There's lots of companies that are still behind that we can help with and get them to that next level.
One of the things we talk about a lot here on the Tech Ed podcast is this whole idea. I actually call it Industry Infinity 0.0, which is, everybody's like, well, what's Industry 5.0 going to be? What's Industry 6.0? And the way that I look at it is that we're just in this period of time and are going to be for a long time of continuing evolution and revolution in manufacturing technology, that I don't even know that there will be another big step transformation. It's just continuing evolution of this technology. And, we still get into manufacturing plants that are using Slick 500s to run their manufacturing operations, right? So to
Right.
your point, not everybody is out here on the cutting edge, and Rockwell just does a phenomenal job of meeting them where they are with technology, with support, with consulting ideas for how they can evolve their manufacturing processes, and with really, really good ideas about how we plan for the future of workforce in this world of what I call Industry Infinity 0.0. You and I are sitting here right in the pavilion, right in the workforce pavilion, dedicated to the next generation of workforce. So as you think about engineering and as you think about all of the innovation that has to take place, all the execution, all the manufacturing engineers, industrial engineers, how are their skills changing and the types of things that they need to know and be good at changing in this world of advanced manufacturing?
It's a really good question, and I'll give a shout out. I went to McMaster University in Hamilton. I find for most engineers that I talk to, probably don't do traditional engineering anymore. Right. But what engineering school and probably a lot of STEM programs teach you is how to learn.
Yep.
Is how to adapt, because today, whatever you know today, in a year and a half, you'll have to upgrade.
Right.
So, that's the nice thing about, if you're in engineering today, you learn the fundamentals. I think the basic physics, the basic things of how the world works is extremely important.
Right.
And now it's a matter of learning the technologies that are out there. Because at some point, as AI comes along, will kids and students need to know how to do basic programming if AI is doing it for you?
Right.
Maybe not.
Right.
I'm a believer in fundamentals. I think you've got to
Right.
understand the fundamentals before you can build onto
Agreed.
it. But I do think, for those students, the fundamentals are primary, but then you can kind of supplement or complement with, okay, let me learn simulation technologies. Let me learn, what does cloud technologies mean, and advanced manufacturing and flexible manufacturing. What does that all mean? I think those are additions that we can add to our curriculums, which I think many schools have already done.
Right. Yeah, and there's no question that they have. One of the things that we hear from so many manufacturers, and like you, I get to spend a tremendous amount of time with folks in the world of advanced manufacturing, large Fortune 500 companies. We've had, I think now, over 20 Fortune 500 chairmen and CEOs join us on the Tech Ed podcast. Blake Moret, by the way, who you mentioned earlier.
I'm honored already.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we hear a lot of times from those larger companies is just this need to understand the integration side of manufacturing and engineering, that they're learning, and it's important. You and I agree. These fundamental, gen ed. We need to understand calculus. We need to understand physics. We need to understand, math. I mean, a lot of these different competencies that to be an effective engineer, obviously you have to understand. But we also have to have an understanding of, it's not just controls, it's not just robotics and automation, it's not just AI, it's not just data, it's not just cloud computing, smart sensors. They really have to have an exposure to all of these different technologies at some point. So when they come out into the workforce, they're ready to be, career ready, job ready when they have their first employment opportunity. Obviously, great companies like Rockwell Automation are going to invest tremendous amounts of money and treasure in upskilling them for specific technologies. But do you agree there's opportunities, and I know Rockwell's doing quite a bit in terms of exposing students at, for instance, four-year engineering universities toward these advanced manufacturing technologies we're talking about?
100%. I think, again, that those are the complementary aspects that go with it. You know the fundamentals of the physics, but adding kind of now, when you get into the real world, this is what you're really going to see. I was going to add one thing, which was maybe, probably this is my history as well. It's like, you learn a lot about technology, you learn about kind of the math and the physics and the
right.
chemistries, but there's the piece of the people part is such an important piece. I mean, we're in the digital workforce, which is about people and how they consume and use and integrate with technology.
Right.
It's a fundamental piece that we've got to all get better at, and it's not just writing the smartest piece of code, but how do people use it. That's why there's a booth right at the front from our UX team saying, we want to hear from users, how can we improve the usability of our tools and our software and our hardware, because it's fundamental. So all engineers need to kind of understand the people aspects of it as well.
They really do, and I know that's been a huge focus and a priority for Rockwell Automation. In fact, as I understand, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be in the room for Blake's remarks this morning, Blake Moret, Chairman and CEO of Rockwell, for his remarks, but talking about company culture, talking about this next generation of workforce, and you and I were chatting about it a bit as we were warming up for this episode. Young people today are looking for something different a lot of times as they're considering careers in advanced manufacturing, and it's not just the technology side of it, not just the math and chemistry, but to your point, the interpersonal and other aspects as well. What's your sense of what young people are looking for as they come out of whatever their education pathway is, high school, post-secondary, technical or community college, engineering? What are they looking for?
Look, I think I'll speak for myself, and then kind of if I think of my kids and kind of the people I know and the people I work with,
right.
There's always been the people want growth and a challenge.
Yep.
There's no doubt you don't come out of school going, hey, give me something easy to do.
Right.
You want to do something challenging. You want to do something that makes a difference, and you want to be able to grow in that organization. I think those are historical true.
Yep.
I think the differences today are students are coming out with, and it's part of just the society we live in. They want to make sure that the company they join, the culture aligns with their culture.
Right.
The social norms, the sustainability goals align with theirs. Our world is in a challenging place, and they want to know that they're working for a company that is trying to make it better. So when they leave, they've done a better job. Those are, Blake mentioned that too today or yesterday in a talk, and it's like I totally agree with that. It's like I think the students want to make sure they're working for a company that makes a difference and to the planet. So all the sustainability goals, think of those. That's what they want as well.
Absolutely. We had some consultants visit one of our companies in addition to the Tech Ed podcast. We're pretty involved on the educational products distribution side of things, and that's part of our partnership with Rockwell as well. We had some consultants that came in, and they were the kind of folks, they were trying to sell consulting services on the HR side, human resources side, and they said, so tell us, why would somebody want to work for such and such a company? And my answer to them was, well, here's the thing. Number one, everything starts with our mission. That company shares the mission with the Tech Ed podcast, which is securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. I spent my entire career working in manufacturing, seeing the incredible careers that people can have in manufacturing. You're a perfect example of somebody that can start out in one element of manufacturing, end up being a global vice president for a huge global company. There's other people that maybe pause somewhere along the way, have a hugely sustainable and rewarding career in the world of advanced manufacturing. That's what our mission is all about. We talked about the core values of our business, which are people, respect, and freedom. And I took about 7-8 minutes to go through it, and the two consultants looked at each other and they're like, we can't help you. You guys already get it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think the point wasn't to brag on our company as much as just an observation that what you're saying is exactly right. The next generation of the workforce is looking for something different and more than just a paycheck and a career and the ability to support their family. They want to work for a company whose values aligns with theirs.
100%.
And I think it's really important when we think about the future of those individuals now and the different types of skills they're going to need to be successful in the world of Industry Infinity 0.0, advanced manufacturing, and so on. Andrew, what are some of those biggest areas that you think are going to require upskilling, new skilling as people think about the future of work?
Yeah, and I don't think it's as simple as saying, hey, just go learn Industry 4.0 technologies.
Right.
It's not that. I still think I'm going to come back to, you got to understand the problem, therefore you need to understand the fundamentals.
Right.
So you can now start to apply maybe those new technologies. So I think understanding both is critical, and then that third pillar of the people. Now, how do people interact with that? So
right.
I understand why I would want to use augmented reality to solve a problem. Because otherwise, if that's all I know, I've got a hammer and everything looks like a nail, I'm going to say augmented reality can solve everything.
Right.
But it can't. It solves a really nice problem if you can find out what that problem is. from the user's point of view.
Exactly.
Same thing with, again, you walk around the expo here, the different types of technologies have a purpose.
Yep.
And it's up to kind of the engineers and the technical people coming to schools to understand how to put that together, how to fit it together. So I do think there's a lot of opportunities for, I'll say, kids, students coming out to learn more. And I think Rockwell gives them a great place to maybe to kind of as their next adventure.
Your answer is reminiscent of another guest we had on the podcast a little over a year ago in the form of John Lowry. And John, at the time, was the Assistant Secretary of Labor, focusing primarily on Veterans Affairs and so on, but a manufacturing guy. So John had been, he was a senior leader at Harley-Davidson for a long time, really, really good personal friend of mine as well. And here's what John said. We were talking about the same technologies, and he said you can't look at this as like this huge step transformation. He said all of these technologies, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's a digital twin, whether it's a smart sensor, a smart device, they're continuous improvement tools. They're tools we use to improve our process, to improve our organizations, improve our operations, and I think that's a really, really good way to look at it. And in order to put those tools to work, we do need a lot of those soft skills, problem solving, being able to diagnose a problem, understand the theory of constraints, understand how we're going to improve a process using these different, whether they're continuous improvement tools or continuous improvement technologies. So as you think through, Andrew, at Rockwell Automation itself, I know that you have a culture, and Blake Moret talked about it when he was on with us, that is committed to continuous learning. So how is Rockwell thinking about upskilling its existing workforce around changing technology and changing approaches to manufacturing?
Look, I think there is a commitment to continual. I like to say, it's got to be part of your DNA that I want to continue to learn.
Yep.
So I can probably talk from the sales point of view. That is fundamental, because you just have to walk through here. And if you were here 2 years ago, the technology is different, the solutions are different. So as technologists, we've got to continually adapt. Therefore, we've got to have time and kind of commitment from kind of senior management that we're allowed to go learn those new pieces. So we're definitely kind of behind that, and that's got to be part of what we do every day. And therefore, it's up to us to kind of put curriculums together, even internally, and as well for our partners and the whole ecosystem to keep bringing everyone up together, right? So I think fundamentally, Rockwell believes in that. We have a kind of a big investment in our own abilities to educate and teach our own people. So I think there's a big commitment there from us.
Yeah, that lifelong learning is so important. If you turn the clock back to the 1970s, the average manufacturing employee, believe it or not, received about 100 hours a year of skills-based training or technology at that time, Industry 3.0 technology-based training provided by their employer at work. And anymore, the average for advanced manufacturers is about 5 hours a year, and most of it is centered around safety. And to your point, as this technology changes, if you're on the business development side of the house, and you've got to be constantly bringing these new technologies and ideas to your your customers, rather, making sure that you're continually sharpening your knowledge of advanced manufacturing technology, really, really important. No doubt that's alive and well at Rockwell.
You said something there that just caught my attention. I think, I've always said it's our customers expect us to be, one or two steps ahead of them. So we don't want to be completely into, things that are so far out that you can't use soon.
Right.
But we got to be able to guide them and educate our customers. A lot of what we do, I feel, is helping and guiding, educating the customers so they know what technologies to pick. And we can also advise of, maybe this doesn't fit here. So we've got to be a little bit ahead of those people. Therefore, we've got to give time for people to learn.
Really important. Definitely give them time for people to learn. Really, really important when it comes to our employees. Also educating the next generation of the workforce and those that are in high school, as an example now, Andrew. I feel like you and I could sit here and talk for another 2 hours. I'm seeing from my producer that we're running a little short on time. I do want to give you an opportunity to answer one last question, and that is, as we're thinking about that high school sophomore as an example in their second year of secondary education, what advice would you give to somebody that age as they think about their future?
I've definitely thought this through, and I'll think back from when I was in high school, and I guess I was lucky that I did like the maths and physics, which probably most people who went into engineering, that's what they liked. But I had zero clue what an engineer did. Didn't really have the knowledge to go, but I liked this.
Yep.
And I think the same holds true, I think, for today. I'd say to my own kids and anyone in high school is you got to follow your passion. You got to wake up every day and love what you do. So if you can find some of the fundamentals that, yes, I enjoy math, I enjoy science, I enjoy solving problems, go down that path and spend your energy on that. Don't worry about other things. You got to follow your passion, because at the end of the day, your career is 40 years long. You better love it.
Absolutely, you better love it. And if you do love what you do, it never feels like work, right?
Exactly.
It never feels like
100%.
work. Today didn't feel like work for me. It felt like a great conversation with a friend, and really appreciate you taking some time for us, Andrew, on the Tech Ed podcast here at Automation Fair.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Tech Ed podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe, leave a review, and if you liked this episode, share it with a friend. New episodes launch every Tuesday, so listen in next week.